Welcome to the Bookmap web tutorial today. Just double check that it's on. I see myself there, ready to go. Check on the audio. Everything looks good to go. And we'll just check with my Bookmap team, make sure everything's looking good, but it's looking great to me. Ready to rock. So today's a pretty flat day for Bitcoin. Not as much action as we would want, but we'll take a look at the charts. I'll show you what I see in the charts, and we'll kind of convey what I see happening with Bookmap. So this morning, I started off right here. We were looking at Bitcoin. Again, I'm a Bitcoin crypto trader. You could take what I teach you with Bookmap and probably put it on any asset in the world. Similar ideas, but Bitcoin just has that volatility, has a lot of liquidations, tends to have, crypto kind of trading is a different beast really than other. It's more volatile really, but it's volatile in a pattern in a way. So you get to you kind of fall into this cyclical volatility. Like you expect certain things to happen. You don't know what will happen every single time, but when you see it, you're like, yeah, I've seen that before. And so Bitcoin was looking like this, and the 1 hour didn't look good at all. 1 hour was overbought, looked like it was going to come to the downside. I said maybe there's a chance that we get a pump out of this 15-minute candle here, right, to the upside. So we were watching this. Next thing you know, another thing that I see is when I see the moving averages really tight, we a lot of times we get a pump up to the 200 SMA. So that's something that I've seen happen many, many times. So that I had that in the back of my mind that we might see that, but yeah. So let me just pull out this Bookmap in the chat. All right. Excellent. Okay. Turn that off. I don't want to hear myself. So when I'm watching Bookmap, I'm always kind of looking for liquidity. I set up my own technical analysis and I see what I'm seeing. This was a bearish divergence. We did see great liquidations on Bookmap on this. This is great. It's wonderful watching divergences with Bookmap because you should get less liquidations, technically on this line than that line, and then we should start to kind of get a move back to the upside. It's a good chance to see kind of when you're getting the lack, you're basically getting towards the end of all the liquidations. And if the first time you use Bookmap, you won't be that intuitive, but as you see more and more liquidations, you'll start understanding kind of, not perfect, but you're like, oh, this is getting towards the end, or I'm seeing how they've taken out the lows here. That looks like the low, we call it, like yesterday, we said that's probably going to be the low for the day. And lo and behold, it was the low for the day, right? Because it was the divergence, and that's when we saw the liquidation. So, so I was saying, hey, 15-minute could get a bounce to this 200 SMA, but we'd have to get above this resistance line. We watched that happen, and then we got rejected. And you can see we have resistance right here, too, at 9,368. And what's interesting is this is kind of making now, to me, what looks more like a bear flag. It's an ascending triangle. I mean, it's a bearish. It's getting more of a bearish flag because it's a flag, ascending triangle, but numerous times we can't get above the previous high to the left, right? And because we can't get above the previous high to the left, it's obvious like we're probably likely going to go further to the downside, okay? So, and let me see that I post the link to the trading group. Yep. Boom, boom, boom. Right. Okay. So we're looking now. How I use Bookmap is I use it like somewhat traditionally, like zooming in and looking for liquidity zones and stuff. But I also look for just big areas where I see a lot of orders. And for Bookmap, it tends to corroborate a lot. So like, see, if this were to break down, it would break down to about 28,565, and that's just the measured move of this pole, really. Okay, how I was able to come up with that area. So when I look at Bookmap, whenever I'm looking and I'm thinking of going short or long, especially if I'm about to go short and I think that's my target, I'd like to see a big buy order there. Because what that does is a lot of times they'll suck price over to their buy orders. So if I see a $28,500 buy order, and again, today it's kind of funny because that's like a psychological letter. It's not always exactly like 28.5. Today it happens to be, but don't always think it is. Just kind of happens to be today. But so you can say, okay, there's liquidity to the downside. It's interesting. Like, for instance, it doesn't mean if there's no liquidity here, they don't go down. But many, many times I've opened up Bookmap. I've done my weekly day show, and I'll see that there's a lot of liquidity down in this area. And lo and behold, Bookmap will come down to that area, and we will watch it. We will watch it squish price action. And I'm always amazed by that when I first started using it. And then I started kind of trusting it more and more. And I've learned that it's about 80% accurate. And I feel like I want to say a little more, but most of the time when I see a bigger, and then I look at the liquidity either side, I see some liquidity on either end. Okay. And what I found is it does tend to go to the closest form of liquidity. So if you have two sets of liquidity that are both pretty even, it'll tend to move towards the one that's the closest, right? And then so I look for how price action moves, which is through technical analysis. And then I add Bookmap on top of it for a layer of just to see kind of where the liquidity is going. And then I love watching the liquidations. It's super important. You grab the liquidation addition and add that jar setting to your to your Bookmap configuration, because it really helps you see what's happening. Now people use different configurations for Bitcoin. Some on very small pips, like they want to see, I don't know, the $40 movements for Bitcoin and be really, some want to be on bigger time frames. It depends. I change it here and there, but for the most part, I'm usually on this setting here where I can kind of zoom in and zoom out, look at the liquidity either side, watch the liquidations occurring. Like that was a short liquidation. Anything above here means they had stop losses in these areas. Price action came into these areas and took out the short liquidations. Okay. Same idea. If you see it below here, they came down and hit the long liquidations. Okay. Now you can also see we're consolidating nicely sideways here. It's also like having a 1 second chart on your back. It's kind of nice too, because these bubbles are getting made every second, really, really fast. Now, tomorrow is the Fed meeting. I mentioned it earlier. What does that mean? What goes on? Well, every single, not every single month, but Fed meets, I'd say 10 times a year. They take a couple months off and they raise the rates, or they lower the rates, or they keep the rates the same, right? And unless they come out and they say, hey, we're going to indefinitely not be raising rates, and then you don't have to have the Fed meeting every single month. But right now we're in this state where they're attempting to control inflation. So every month the Fed will come out and either lower or raise the rates. A cool thing to watch is the CME watch tool, which I have here, just a cool little, and this just kind of gives you an idea of what the Fed will do. And this has been about 99% accurate. It's very rare that this will say we'll have a rate hike at 98%, and we don't. So it says we have a rate hike tomorrow. Is that baked in is what I've been really talking to people about and going over. For me, I think it could shake up. Either it's baked in or not. What I've learned about Fed days is they use it to shake up the market. So they get enough people feeling uneasy about price action that they can sway the market in a certain way, back and forth. That's why. So to me, I lose an edge on Fed day because of so many people are uneasy. There's just so many emotional trading going on. There's like way too many 100Xs close to this. It's usually a messy day. If I can see a move first and then catch a retest or a bounce, I might, but for the most part, I just like to observe Fed day and kind of watch it happen. And I'm starting to get better at this now. I've been through, 10 Fed days where I live stream the Fed day after my live stream. I see the days before, the days after. I'm super conscious and focused on the whole time period as it happens and on the data. And what I find is the day before Fed day, a lot of times is a sideways price action day where people are in what I called spooky mode, where they don't really get a feeling either way. Like this had a pump but got rejected. This was supposed to dump but got pumped back up, And another thing that I'm really adamant about is when I don't like to be called a pattern trader per se, because I use so many more things than patterns. But patterns do dominate how I look at the market, right? So right now, like this was an ascending triangle. We broke out of it. We broke back inside of it. And to me now we're like, like you could kind of raise it now, And to me what we're doing is we're like, yeah, we're now back inside of this triangle here, you see? And we're just going to be going likely, in my mind, or right here, like trying to retest it. We came back in, we bounced back up, but we're just going sideways, in my humble opinion. I like to bring it right here and show it like this, but we're just going sideways now. We left the pattern, we broke back inside, so now I can remove this wedge. I don't need to see it anymore. And so what I'm looking for is for Bitcoin not to break this diagonal support line. Bounce, bounce. I don't want to see it get tight, right? And then we know a big move is coming. Then we can figure out which way the move is going to go. If it breaks up, we're going to break up. And usually you get your measured move, but then you would carry over to the resistance level. So like I wouldn't be surprised if we hit all the way to 29.6. The 200 SMA will come into play. If we can get back above that and close some candles above it, even on this 15-minute time frame, that'll be substantial. get to know the 200 SMA. You know, I know it's a Bookmap tutorial, but get to know the 200 SMA, the simple moving average. I'm telling you right now, maybe you're an exponential moving average trader, and I get it, it helps. But the 200 SMA is, it just, man, it can make trading so much smoother for you, and you can see things just a little clearer, and you can try it out on multiple time frames, meaning like once you fall below, look, once you close the 15-minute candle below, you open up a short. And look what happens. That short just dumped. You know, and you can look at Bookmap for the liquidity areas and stuff. And again here, like, boom. You know, once it gets above, open up a long. And like that was a beautiful long. That was a beautiful short. That was a nice long. That was a nice short. It doesn't happen perfectly every time, but right there, you broke below. You started opening up a short right in this area. And I keep my stop loss like on the other, find a support and resistance on the other side of the 200 SMA. And you'd be surprised how many times, you know, you'd get a golden win there. So I'm looking the same thing now too. Can the price action get back above this yellow line, close a couple candles above it? Then we could long with a stop loss on the other side, just like we longed like maybe this one or that one. And just like we shorted this. And you can flip it upside down, same idea. You would have longed that. It came back for the retest and it was gone. Came back for the bearish retest. So now I'm like, okay, now I have a sense of where Bitcoin could be going by tonight, you know, 8 p.m. tonight. Because I'm like, all right, well, it's going to take at least, you know, and you can hold shift down, grab this and kind of just give yourself a sense. 10 hours, you know, you got 10 hours of price action till you get towards the end of this ascending triangle, right? And again, I got a 28,800 level, and then I know the further level is the length of that bigger pole, which takes me down to 28,500. So I then, you know, glance at Bookmap. Before I go to bed tonight, I'll be looking at it. I'll look at Bookmap 10, 15 times a day. You know, I have it running all day, like on one of my 6 screens, just always up on my upper left monitor. So now I just look at Bookmap, and I'm seeing, you know, they've got some balanced liquidity, right? It's not all bull, it's not all bear, but you do have more bulls trying to buy 28,500. That's where the conglomeration, right? I guess that's where it's conglomerated, I guess, or consolidated. That's where all the order really, that's like your biggest, and it's the darkest red except for where the orders are right now, you see? So it's telling me, hey, I mean, if there's the biggest in there, you can see it's 1,050 Bitcoin, 400 Bitcoin, you know, it's over 2,000 Bitcoins, almost 3,000 if you kind of go from 29 all the way to the 28. It's a lot, and it consolidates at 28.5. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that big red line, and it's, you know, at an area that I already have a support and resistance line marked at. Because the whales, they're looking at bots and support and resistance, right? So it all goes hand in hand, you know? So now I got a kind of sense of where Bitcoin could go tonight and what my idea could be. Okay, it go up and down. And here's the idea. If it can break out and retest this level, I could possibly long it, right? And then we'll probably see short liquidations here. But if it bearishly retests here or drops, then it's likely going to be a short. So because we know the pattern, we can get a sense of when to enter or exit a trade. We can get a sense of when it's likely going to happen. And we can be preemptive about our trading plan because we have something to go on. Now, if we had no pattern at all, it'd just be whatever, you know. Now, some people are like, well, what is the actual pattern? Like, could it be this? Could it be that? And, you know, I dabble with moving it around and changing it here and there. You know, you could say, I mean, to me, technically, that is the touch. That is the touch. Wherever two-line touches, I use that idea. And I'm open-minded. Like, right now, I may change it, you know, depending on as I see price action. I still keep this level here because it's you can see it's a substantial level. We broke out. We broke back in. But for the most part, you're starting to see at least consolidation. 3 higher lows in a row, 4 now, right? And now you're like, all right, Bitcoin's consolidating. And now it has to break this high or it's going to break this swing low, right? And you don't know exactly. These are 50-50. These are called symmetrical patterns. So, but I get a sense of when Bitcoin's going to make a bigger move, right? And the tighter this gets, the tighter I know price action is going to get. And yeah. It'd be cool to watch some liquidations. Last week, we actually were able to predict like a move for Bitcoin, and we were able to show you the liquidation like that we knew was likely going to happen, and then we watched people get liquidated. I don't believe we'll get the volatility today just because of, I'm telling you, markets like this. You know, big money's on the sidelines. You know, even me, like I might swing around. Tuesday's one of my favorite days to trade, and today I'm like a little like, because the Fed meeting. So if the Fed meeting has influenced my trading, then how many other people has it influenced? So that's one thing that I always kind of go over, right? Could you please explain the thought process by not including the wicks in the trend lines? Yeah, so this is, when I first was taught how to make patterns, people would say, hey, one of my first mentors was like, make your patterns with the wicks or the candle bodies, but don't mix, right? So like I was just looking for a place we could like begin to draw a pattern or look for a pattern. So like here, and I see traditional stock traders making patterns way different than me. I really do. We'll go like the 1 hour maybe. Now, for me, I'm always looking at liquidity grabs and stop hunts, and I'm also looking for divergences. Number one, I get the sense of I like doing the same thing over and over again, right? And so like when I find divergences, I don't use candle wicks because the wick could be longer. It's still there, but I use my candle bodies when I'm finding divergences. Like there's a really nice bullish divergence there. And I know I'm going to answer your real question. I know I'm not but so right off the bat, I don't use the wicks there, right? Because the wicks are showing me where people are getting, the wicks are liquidations, It's zones where people are just like, they can't take it anymore and they're getting kicked out of the trade. I'm trying to find like a better pattern. But now all of a sudden it looks like here's a rising wedge, okay? Now, to me, over time, I feel like you get a sense. It's not using emotions, but it's an instinct, it's a sense. You'll get a feeling over what the pattern, like what the trend line is. You can feel it, right? Now, every once in a while, we'll use wicks, but it's very rare for me. It's very rare. Like, the pattern has to demand it, Funny, this one's like mixing a little bit, like patterns and wicks, right? Like you came to the area, you wicked to the top. Funny, this one's like showing differently. But if I'm going to trade like the 1 hour time frame or a smaller time frame, like I might even omit this section and just keep it like this. Now, this is where they push price up and they basically made people think we were going to break out. They got the breakout traders to make stop losses all inside, and then they ripped the price to the downside, making people think it was going to be a parabolic run out of the rising wedge. Now, there was probably a bearish divergence here, which would have pushed me out of the trade right here. See, so the divergence traders know better. People that don't know the divergences yet, like I remember when I first got in, I didn't know my divergences yet. So if I had included the wick in here, number one, it acts like it's part of the pattern. Now, yeah, fine, it hits resistance. I guess you could say, well, the wicks hit resistance, and that's a good place. The more I trade, the more I'm like open to it. Years ago, I was more like, I guess the more you become more limber, the more price action you see. You become more easy, like I guess more like Bruce Lee says, like you become more like water. Because when you first start trading, you're more rigid because you think it's going to be your way, and then the market beats you down, and eventually you start learning that like you have to be kind of always versatile. The market is always moving. You have to always be moving. You can never be like stagnant in the market, and that means like you can have an idea and you have to be okay with that idea changing within an hour to 2 hours. And you have to be okay to have another idea on the back end. And that's why I talk about trading very similar to playing chess. A chess player has no idea what the next player is going to do. You might have an assumption. You're like, oh, I've seen that move before. He moved his rook. He's probably going to move his horse. Like you might have but you don't know. You're not a psychic. You can't read the other person's mind, And that's why when people tell me they know where Bitcoin's going, it's like where everyone is going to wake up today and who's going to purchase Bitcoin for what, because that's what's going to determine the price today, all the different people that interact in the market, which changes every day. So when someone comes to my channel or I watch, I watch other channels and someone puts a comment like, we're going to 29.5, then we're going to drop down. Like I always kind of chuckle to myself because I'm like, nobody knows. I always tell myself, I don't know where Bitcoin's going to go. So that, and that whole philosophy has a lot to do with why I don't put the wicks inside, because the wicks are when they go after people, stop loss somebody out, right? and then they usually come back inside the pattern. It usually shows me it's an extended area of price action, right? Divergences are just going to be your key. And what you'll do is you'll get to know divergences, and Bookmap will help you because you'll find your divergences and you'll see the liquidations. And honestly, it's kind of rewarding for someone like me who kind of like, always had a hyperactive brain and wanted to see different stuff. Being able to see the liquidations when I find divergence becomes kind of like getting a gold star. I can't explain it, but this little visualization, I don't know, it adds to my, like the stimulation that I get from finding divergences. And it makes it, enjoyable. I guess it's kind of weird, but it makes it even more enjoyable because, I don't know, I'm seeing the reasonings behind what's happening. So I have more explanation to myself of what I'm doing. And, before I was just drawing two lines and like it worked and I get it. Now I'm seeing, oh yeah, like they just got this guy out, then they got this stream, oh, they got all the longs out. Time to move the price back to the upside, So I'm always, the real way I use the main thing I'm using Bookmap for is to find where they're basically shredding liquidity, which is basically liquidating people. And I probably watch, I don't know, at least 5 to 10 liquidations a day, every day. Sometimes hundreds. It depends on how long what I'm doing or how much we're using Bookmap, how much price action is moving around that day, right? But for the most part, I can tell you what, like, I've sat here before and I've seen like just less, say there's no real liquidity down here. And this bar could disappear. They've spoofed before too. 2 hours from now, 3 hours from now, there could be no red here at all. And it could disappear, So it's not always 100%. It's not a guarantee. But I can't tell you how many times I opened up Bookmap, specifically saw no red down here or yellow. It was all blue and light. And I saw just chunks of red and yellow up here. And lo and behold, we would go and watch a short squeeze. It's hundreds of times now on my live stream. I feel like I think I've had Bookmap for almost a year and a half, 2 years. I can't remember. It feels like the days just get meshed together because I use it so much. But so, and then you can look at the cumulative volume delta, which is how many people are long or short, right? And how many people have been liquidated in one direction or the other. That can give you a little sense of when the liquidations are getting kind of towards the end, right? Today they're flat, and they're just getting people that are high leveraged around the areas, So they're like, all right, we're going to grab this, we're going to grab that, People, for me, like anyone who, like a seasoned leverage trader today knows that the market's likely going to be flat and be on spook mode for the Fed meeting. So it's not a regular Tuesday. So I already know, I can sense it, I can see it in the market. The market's not even moving the same way it would move on a regular Tuesday. So that's the cool thing, too, about watching my show every day, the CryptoLifer show, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., Monday through Friday, is I stream every day of the year unless there's a holiday. And even if there is a New York holiday, I still stream the crypto markets every day of the year. I stream Christmas, I stream Thanksgiving, my birthday. Haven't taken a day off since February of 2021 because I understand that being in the market really shows you what's going on. Do you look at fractal moves in Bookmap and draw your trend lines there? Thanks for that. Anytime, man. Let's go with the knowledge. Shout out to Andrew. Do you look for fractal moves in Bookmap and draw your trend lines there? Can you explain volume and confluence, please? Yeah, of course. The question of Bookmap is, when I first started trading Bookmap, because look right here, see this? That's a flag right there. You see the flag? And then I see liquidity up at 29.5. Interesting, right? So if I look at the small picture now, I'm like, huh. So I know now if I go to Bitcoin on like the 1 minute chart, all right? I was looking at XRP here, kind of a cup and handle if it can hold that zone. Not the best price action, but so I'll go to like Bitcoin on KuCoin. Just a chart that I haven't charted in a while. And I'll go to like the 1 minute, and then I can see the flag on Bookmap, And so look, if you look at Bookmap, I mean, it's pretty cool, but see the flag here, and I start seeing the trend lines right there. So I think the answer to his question is 100%. I mean, and I start seeing that subconsciously now too, right? And so, okay, we're getting some type of consolidation. Consolidation. Price goes up, price goes down, price goes up, not as high, price goes down, not as low, price goes up, right? And it just starts to find a tight channel. Tight channeling is, and that's what the Bollinger Bands are all about. That's really what it's all about. It's watching momentum come to a point and attempting to attach yourself to that energy, that movement of energy at that moment in time, right? So this tells me, wow, 1 minute chart is starting to consolidate tight. I have a measured move. And that's almost, I consider this more of a bull pennant than a symmetrical. A symmetrical triangle, I feel like would have to be a little chubbier like this. This to me is a bull pennant. 68% chance of a break to the upside, has a higher probability of breaking up. And you know what's funny is, where's this measure? This measured move will likely go where? 29,450, 29.5, right? You think so? Where that same line of liquidity is for Bookmap? Right there. Huh. Is someone planning a move up to the upside? Are we about to see some shorts get squeezed here? To me, it's starting to tell me that it's possible. Now, I also am a momentum indicator guy, and my 1 hour momentum indicator is a little high, but look, we're getting a move right now. See that? I can't tell you how many times I just happen to look at the chart too, and it starts like the price action starts to get. It's weird. I have this coincidental ability to like be right there as that candle's pumping, right? But again, that's a falling wedge that should break up 68% of the time. And like someone could have just made their payday right there. At 20x leverage. I mean, right there, that was at 10x leverage, it's almost a 2% trade. So that, that's almost 4% right there in a minute, right? And look, it was a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. It was an inverted head and shoulder inside of that falling wedge. I mean, I absolutely love the phenomenon of pattern trading. Like, if you stick with me and you watch me all the time, sorry, I don't want those. You stick with me and you watch me all the time, like it'll feel like David Blaine, like not like I'm saying me, but the technical analysis is like magical. Like, it's pretty outrageous how it works out. That was supposed to happen. 68% of the time, this shoulder, this head, and the shoulder should break out. It's slanted. It's a slanted head and shoulder, so you draw your neckline diagonal, and you would take this length here, and bang, right? You could take some profit right there, call it a day. Technically, the top of this trend line, too, now. And you're overbought on the stochastics RSI. So that would be, Now, you could take this idea that I just showed you, and you could see the daily one day, and you'll see a giant inverted head and shoulder on the daily. You'll pull your fibs, and you could trade this exact setup on the daily. I'm sure I found one day I could find a fractal. Like, I used to take daily fractals, shrink them down, put them down onto 1 minute, take 1 minute fractals, try to shrink them up. And I do a lot of what I call fractal magic on my live stream. It's a lot of fun. I used to do it a lot more than I have recently. It's funny, but when the market starts to rip more, we'll see a lot more fractals because we'll just see movement in the market, and the fractals kind of fractal through the market. It's interesting. So this tells me we could get a move to Bitcoin. Now I'm starting to say, hey, there's a chance we go to 29,500 here. All right, and I start kind of seeing now. Looks like a nice short if you're a 1 minute scalp trader. Looks like we could get a nice short back to the bottom of the channel, right? And lo and behold, we should have seen some short liquidations just now, and we did. Right? Not a lot, right? But we got it. So it's just nice for me to know I expect a short liquidation. I see one, right? I expect a long, and I'm not 100%. No trader is. I wish I was the magic man, and I just would point at everything, and it would go exactly where I said it would go. But I mean, I put so much effort and time in that I believe my mind, my subconscious mind and my brain are seasoned enough that I believe, even if I don't know what I'm, fully realize every analysis that I do, you'll pick up on so much good information from me because I just constantly do it. You know what I mean? And I get a good night's sleep. I make sure to just take care of my mental health. That way, when people come to my stream every day and I'm going over this stuff, because technical analysis has a lot to do with, like, were you out late last night? Are you drinking? Your lifestyle has a lot to do with how good you're going to be at trading. This is where it gets a little hairy with me and my students, because I tell people, hey, man, like, the days of, like, being completely undisciplined, eating whatever you want, sleeping at all different hours, like, we have to start curtailing that stuff. Like, there has to be, a set schedule as far as I'm concerned, a good night of sleep, trading. I have to be in the market 5, 6, 7 a.m. every day, trading. You want to give it that time, It's unfair to yourself if you don't clear your mind and give yourself that like a year or two, you'll never develop into the trader you want to be if you don't take care of the disciplines in life, and that's what I love about trading. Like you won't, some people can get lucky, fine. Maybe they can binge drink all night long and still 100x Doge. I'm sure it's happened. But if you want to do this for a living and not blow out the money that you made before, stay disciplined, continue, and maybe help other people too and teach them, there's definitely I always push a lifestyle idea. I'm drinking lemon water here, keeping a positive mindset. Also, not everyone wakes up positive every single day. I wake up positive probably 90% of the time, but there's, and working out is how I do that. I worked out this morning. I was dripping sweat, and I go, I know it's a Bookmap webinar, but if I'm going to talk about Bookmap and show you how I use it and break down any type of technical analysis, I also want to talk about lifestyle and what encompasses success, and then you don't chase too. You're not emotional, right? Look, price action hit that and came down. How do we know that? Because the stochastics RSI was oversold. We've drawn our trend line and we figured that was our trend. You start trusting your TA, right? This will disappear. This is the 1 minute chart. This pattern will disappear. We'll have made so much more patterns in the next 24 hours. This will just turn into nothing, right? But the idea is and I still trust that trend line was real, right? Like this is a blip in a second. This is the 1 minute chart. This will be come and go, but I trusted that trend line, right? So it's, and I love my stochastics RSI. Using the stochastics, pattern trading, and Bookmap have enhanced my trading to just another level because I'm able to. I never get emotional anymore. I see a massive dump. I'm looking for divergences on the 1 minute, and I'm watching liquidations on Bookmap. Half the time we know we're going to see the liquidations because I see a descending triangle or I see a bearish divergence, and then I also will see a bunch of liquidity down here, right? Now this liquidity. Now the other week we had liquidity down here for days, and we kept going up. So I don't want you to just I open up Bookmap, I see liquidity down there, I short the market. It doesn't work like that, We're just using Bookmap to add extra information to the charts. Okay. Let me pop out the chat here too. I'm looking at it on my right screen, but I can just pop it out. I don't see VWAP on your Bookmap. Do you use that ever in TA? Like right now, if we retest the VWAP on Bookmap, I think we would continue up. Testing now. The volume weighted price. Well, I never really use VWAP. I don't use it 100%. I'm not, I didn't grow up on VWAP, right? So I do slap it on sometimes and I use it, right? I have an indicator with some money flow on it and I look, but I'll tell you what, the VWAP to me, it's kind of like this. I'm going to go on like a storytelling move here, but like evolution, let's just say, or like, let's just talk about like a tadpole, right? Like it comes out as like a little, and this is going to get weird, I guess, but a tadpole comes out and it evolves into the frog, right? Slowly it has a little frog with a tail, and then it eventually, I'm not going to really draw a frog, but it gets bigger. This is a big frog. So it evolves, right? Technical analysis did the same thing. When they started watching price action, like price would go up or down, right? And eventually someone figured out how to add, a MACD, right? Moving average, convergent divergence. They started using moving averages and numbers. Then they got into momentum indicators, figuring out where the momentum got too high and when the momentum got too low, right? Now, when momentum starts to get too high, the money starts to leave, right? When the momentum gets too low, the money starts to come back in. And so the VWAP will translate a lot of its information from the back end derived from the RSI and the Stokes. I'm not saying, what I mean is the signals all come from momentum. So if you're just thoroughly a momentum trader, you'll technically kind of somewhat trade the VWAP without realizing it in a way. You know what I mean? But again, I'm open-minded to learn something new. So, hey, nice to see you streaming. Shout out to the demo trader, man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Shout out to everybody here on the Bookmap stream. We really appreciate you coming in today. I am answering questions here. If you want to ask a question, let me know. All right. And you wrote VWAP. Yeah. Yeah. And this is subscriber only mode. So you got to subscribe to Bookmap to see the stream. So yeah, now we watch this flag on the 1 minute. And, you know, based on pattern trading alone, there's a 68% chance this breaks to the upside, right? So you have a little more probability that you will break up. Now, entering the trade possibly would be, I'd like if it can come back down, or if it breaks out and retests, or we get some type of flag even here that never ended up going to the bottom of the channel. All those are viable ideas for me to possibly, you know, take a scalp on a futures trade. So what do I do? Why am I doing this? I do this to trade Bitcoin futures, right? Sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 scalps a day, depending on the day. And I do this to trade altcoins, to look at where Bitcoin's going to go on the bigger time frames. You know, I like swing trading the 4 hour and the 1 hour a lot. I like to be in a trade between 10 and, I don't know, 20 hours. 36, 48 hours is kind of the longest. I don't like to be in too much, depending. And then I like to long-term invest in for 2 to 3 years at a time. So I look for, you know, moves where Bitcoin's going to dump pretty hard and maybe take an altcoin down where I can DCA into it at a good price. And then I open up the chart every morning and I want to see, I just want to see where, you know, where we're likely going to go. What I like to do is I do a update into the Discord, into my trading group. I have a Discord trading group just in case anyone wants to know. I work 7 days a week. I'm always going to be there. It's a great place to be. It has so much in there. You can join my free server and then hit the watch first area. It's going to tell you what's inside my server. It's going to give you free risk management and a couple videos too that are just, you know, free right off the bat. You can see my teaching style and what I'm giving you. And then I have elite traders that are posting charts. I have token metrics data in there. I post Bookmap regularly, you know, a couple times a day, just so you can see what I'm looking at. And so we just, you know, we as a group of traders, we're looking at the market, and we have people from around the world. So when I go to bed, there's someone from another part of the country or the part of the world looking at another section of the market. So, and we got people that trade the NASDAQ. We got people that trade the S&P. We got stock traders. We have, you know, we got funded traders. We got all sorts of people in the trading group. It's a really eclectic group of people. Now we got some more liquidity kind of coming on in here. See, like it's starting to get, so this guy's like, hey, I might want to get in on this 29.8 now, right? So, that tells me a little, interesting. And see how this is starting to turn? It's like, we got this. So I never like to, funny, that liquidation up there is that. I never like to, I don't like to short in between. If I see a big blob of liquidity, like 757 Bitcoins, not that far from me, right? About, you know, $300, $400 away. Well, $500 away, I guess. But, you know, it's telling me, hey, man, there's a high likelihood you're going to get squeezed. You're going to get liquidated in this little area here. And I'm starting to back this now, too. Is the liquidity closer to here? Do we usually go towards it? And lately we have been, it's like a magnet. If it's closer, you'll touch it, right? So I'm like, Now, this all could turn to zero. Like, everything could go backwards, right? This could end up falling off, not happening. It all depends, right? Well, we got to watch it. But the probability now is that we go further to the upside, to 29,456, right? And in a way, I like that question because the fractal question was how I was able to find the pattern on the 1 minute, right? Because I started seeing it here. I could see the pattern forming, you see? The patterns were formed by order books and liquidations. And now and what I love, whoever created the Bookmap site, smartest thing you could do for your marketing was see what's behind the candles, and it scans over, and it's kind of like an aha moment that someone can have instantly, like, oh, that's why they use Bookmap. You know, if they understand liquidity a little bit. So if I see some more short squeezing up into this red line, 29.5, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm actually expecting it right now based on my TA and Bookmap, you know. So it would be unlikely to see a massive dump. But again, I'm not 100%. I never can say that but the likelihood now is that we consolidate a little bit and we do pump up to 29,450 to 29.5. We'll have a little bit of resistance at 29,344, right? And that's like if you want to trade small time frames and scalp using like 10x to 20x leverage. Again, I didn't even start trading leverage until I had like 9 years of spot trading, maybe even more. I made a good amount of money spot trading. I never even thought I would trade leverage for any reason. A lot of people, I think, trade leverage because they have $1,000 and they want to turn it into 100 grand. And they're like, oh, I could finally have a $10,000 position. And if it goes up a percentage, I can make $500, you know? So I get the want to do it. I was far more patient. Like, I was never like, oh, I have to double up this year. I was more like, oh, I find investments. I wait a couple years. I sell them. They turn into money. I was like, okay, you know? I've never been addicted to fast money. I never really got, I mean, I've gotten some big paychecks in a small amount of time now that I've worked really hard, but I'm not about fast money. It doesn't do a lot for me. I love planning out. I love waiting it out. I love doing what the masses won't do for gains. You know, the majority of people in the world lack patience, and that's why most people aren't good traders. Simple as that. Like, focus, discipline, and patience. If more people just gave more of those three things to their trading career, they probably still would be trading right now, you know, instead of being like, oh, I used to trade, but now, you know, I don't really want to do that anymore. And, you know, that statistic that 10% or you know, only 1% or 10% of traders are successful or something, like, it's a very small number. It is a small number, but they're also considering people that just open an account and like half do it for like 6 months and calling them traders. How many people actually, you know, get Bookmap, come to the Bookmap webinar today, watch live streams where people are informing and teaching them information every single day, joining trading groups, writing things down, you know, creating like an office space in their house where it's really dedicated to trading. I mean, how many of those people fail? You know what I mean? And we can't really find the data on that. So trading is very hard because most people never even become a trader, in my humble opinion. The people that we call traders never even really fully, in my mind, should it have been considered in the data pool, you know? So they really slap the name on a trader to anyone who really tries to chance at, you know, looking at the charts and throwing money in the market. But most people don't even start the process correctly, you know? Nice retest of the VWAP. Then we are pushing up now. Interesting. Plus, you only get 3 hours of back data on the basic Bookmap account. If you have a specific location you want to put a stop loss, why not trade with as much leverage as possible, where it brings your liquidation point just below the stop loss? Fees. If you have a specific location you want to put a stop loss, why not trade with as much leverage as possible, where it brings your liquidation point just below? It will depends on the person. Do you have a $10,000 portfolio that you're trading isolated, and you only want to lose the position? Then you don't want a liquidation point there, right? Then maybe you haven't crossed and you don't care and you put enough in the account that you're willing to lose. It depends on the person and their trading style, 100%, you know? And this is pretty flat price action for Bitcoin on a Tuesday. Like, you can tell there's something brewing. It's the week. It's summer price action. All right. I'd love to be able to watch all this price action get up to price action, but we probably won't be able to get there. I don't know how 44 minutes goes by this fast. Like, I feel like I just started this. It was just 1:15 when I checked that. And I was like, oh, wow, we've only been going for 15 minutes. And we're pretty flat and dry today, I'll be honest. Like, it's like, but I feel like I have a good understanding of where price action is going to go today. Or I have at least a probability, you know, based on my years of doing this. And Bookmap has just kind of added that added idea that we have liquidity right where I'm looking at. And so I would heed people not to short right now, you know. A lot of times, too, a more seasoned trader has the capacity, just like a more seasoned chess player. A chess player that's more seasoned has the capacity to remember more moves of possible abilities that the opponent can make. So, like, you're sitting on the other side, a seasoned chess player can think of 10 or 15 different moves on this side, a few moves over here, and maybe have 25 different ideas. And as this guy moves, he minuses a few and adds a few, and he's even quicker at doing that computation as well in the process of it. And his subconscious mind is trained for that, and he's just boom, 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 you know? Now, a less seasoned chess player might only see 4 to 5 moves, and then when the player moves, he has to minus 4 of them and then add a couple more, and he's not as even quick at that transition. right? So it's the same thing with trading. A more seasoned trader has the ability to look at more time frames and understand all the interactions between them through a subconscious mind connection that happens over time from just constantly doing this. I don't know, there's no really other way for me to explain it, but like you just, and how my mentor used to call it aha moments. Like we had no really other way to explain it, where someone just, oh my God, like they see something in a way they never saw it before. Lakochi Coker, shout out to you, CryptoLifer, for the hard work and dedication, man. Bless you. Thank you, man. I love you, Lakochi. God bless you. So for when I'm bringing this up for, because I have an ending point to this, is a trader may see the 1 hour very overbought and wanting to dump, and they may open up a bunch of shorts here, but they don't understand how to watch the 1 minute time frame. They don't understand how to check on the 15. They haven't dabbled with small time frames yet. The 15's tight moving averages with the 200 out there, likely telling me that we're going to get that move up to 29.4. That also says we can make that move. All right, so I got another thing that says, hey, there's a chance this can happen on these small time frames. That's kind of a shoulder, head, and shoulder forming there, but I still pretty much expect this to come down to the bottom of the trend line now. And price action is moving very slow today. And we're just waiting on a $250 move. It's not like, or a $200 move for Bitcoin. But that could be someone's huge payday. That's what people don't, I never realized that when I was used to trade spot. I never realized someone could be on the 1 minute with 50x leverage, you know, and like they could make more in a day on that 1 minute trade than most people make in a week, you know. So and you can even look at like swing lows in the small time frame. Now you're like we got to take out this high. The one thing I will tell you, the difference between investing and futures trading, right? In futures trading, you will work for your money, meaning you will be at that chart. You'll be staring at the screens. Some days your eyes will hurt you. Your hand will hurt. You've been in the zone. Like you've been watching price action. It's good to have like, I don't know, like something out like a book, you know, sometimes, or like just one other thing on the side. Maybe even you're watching a tutorial, another trading tutorial, like while you're like, it can be all learning all the time, or scanning coins, token metrics data. You know, for me, it's like it never ends. You know, I have like 6 screens and I can always be doing something. But you're watching price action a lot. You know, when you invest, you know, you're DCAing, you're checking maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, going through the charts, looking at the macro, and you know, you're just kind of adding. I do all of it. I'm pretty sure I'll make more and more money investing in the long term. You know what I mean? Just like letting things sit. But at the same time, I've future traded before, you know, and swung trade on spot, used a few thousand to create a few thousand, and then use that to make a long-term position that ended up 50xing or 25xing. So it's kind of like amazing. It's like you have this pot of money, you can swing trade for more, then you can start adding that to long-term holds. And I remember doing that with Phantom one year, and it was amazing. I had 10 grand just in Tether, and I would trade it, and I didn't even trade the 10 grand all at once. Sometimes I'd trade like a $3,000 trade. Sometimes I had 3 $3,000 trades open. Sometimes 2 would lose, 1 would win. Sometimes 2 would win, 1 would lose. Sometimes I only had 1 open, 2, it depend. Sometimes I had all the money out. Sometimes I only had half the money out, you know, and I eventually was able to, within like about a month and a half, I was able to, out of the 10 grand, I was able to turn that into about, I think it was about 14,800. And I took that 4,800. And every time I won, I was putting that money into Phantom because Phantom was low. So I was swing trading things that weren't that low or had some volatility. And it was awesome because in my mind, I knew what I wanted to do with every trade because I'd be in a trade and it was up 250. I'd be like, oh, that's just 250 more Phantom. And I just raised the stop loss up to $200. Like I was very, very just take the profit, take the profit, take the profit. And I was like, if I can do this 10 to 20 times, 300 here, 400 here, you know, I'm going to amass a $5,000 bag of Phantom, and then I can leave that and let that sit and see where that can go, right? And so I'm all about, I like to swing trade, into long-term positions. That's kind of like the main, and I didn't really know that's what I did until I realized that's what I was a swing trader, then I was a long-term investor, then I started long-term investing with some of my swing bags. So I always, at any given moment in time, I'm always buying, like today I bought a little more Bitcoin. I'm always adding to my bags of BTC. I believe in inflation, and I've been studying inflation since 2010. I always am in a swing trade or two, depending on what's happening. And I'm almost, and depending on the day, I'm in a future trade usually for that moment in time, maybe a 4-hour trade, 2-hour trade, sometimes a 10-minute trade. Yesterday I used like $1,000 to scalp Bitcoin for $50. It wasn't crazy, but I made the $50 in I don't know, 20 minutes, maybe under an hour, So, and sometimes I'm just trying a strategy or I'm doing something. I want to see if something's going to play out. Half the time I want to, I'm so into probability. I want to test the probability of a certain strategy or something that I'm using, Like we're above the 200 SMA. That's also a good sign here that we could continue to the upside. When you're below, you're in a downtrend. When you're above, you're in the, and that's going to be true on all small time. Here, look, you short, you get above it, you long, you get below it, you short. And I showed you that too on the 15. You could trade this, and that's why whenever I'm now looking at the weekly, and I tell everyone, well, we're above the 200 SMA on the weekly, I'm still bullish because I stick to these same ideas over and over again. I've never opened up an options trade in my life. No, I've never done options. I guess I consider myself super lucky. My story is I started trading, I started just looking at stocks 2007, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I got out of college in 2005, right? I'm 23, 24 years old. I go through Wall Street and people are telling me, and I see all the money, and I'm in New York City, and I'm like, well, money gets made, and you got to get into Wall Street, you got to trade, And some days I would stay outside of the New York Stock Exchange and just look, and I'd watch all the people come in and out, and I'd kind of dream of like what would it be like to be a millionaire and change your life, And I kept thinking, what can I do? Right? I was 24 years old. I was young. And thank God, I started researching just a lot of kind of like deep dive conspiracy theories online. And sometimes it's faux pas to mention this stuff, but and I won't say exactly what I was researching, but all different stuff, near-death experiences. I got into even ghosts and stuff like that. I know this seems off topic, but it's not. I'm going to bring it back to Bookmap. But the whole thing was I started realizing there was a lot out there that I didn't know, number one. That what I thought reality wasn't true. And then I got into inflation, and I found a documentary on inflation. And it taught me, they're going to print money to zero, and they're going to keep doing it. And I was like, whoa. And by 2009, I was pretty hip to inflation, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get out of this US dollar that they got everybody in. Otherwise, I'm going to end up like everybody else, and I'm going to lose all my money due to inflation, right? Or at least a third of it or half of it. And I worked hard. I worked a night shift. I said, they're not going to take my money like they took my parents' money. Because then I got angry. Once you figure out inflation, you'll get angry, especially if you love your mom and dad and they worked really hard. I thought of how hard my mom and dad worked and all the years they spent. And I thought of how they were getting their value stolen from them and they couldn't even see it. And I was like, how horrible is that? And probably voting for the same people that are adding to the fact that, and I was like, man, this is bad. This is not the way it should go. I knew there's something wasn't right about it. So luckily, I got into buying gold and silver bars. Then I'm at so much of it, I had to start to trade it because I was like, well, what do you do with this? I learned how to trade because of that. That forced me into trading. Boom, boom, boom. I got into so before, the whole point of the story is I didn't know what leverage was. I didn't know what options were. And I just threw, $2,000 into Great Panther Limited. It turned into $9,800. Boom. It did it in about 4 weeks, maybe, yes, I can't remember. I think 40 days, if I remember it being 4. And I was like, wow, I worked so hard and I just made way more than I make in a month working my butt off of trading. And then I found Canopy Grow Corp because I started thinking, hey, well, marijuana will get legal and then hopefully, that could end up becoming a viable way to invest. So I started investing in stuff like that. And then from there on, things just kind of kept growing. And so I was able to amass a pretty good investment portfolio before I ever really did during that time, I'm trading gold and silver on the on the New York Stock Exchange. But my long-term holds were on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And I had to get into the Toronto Stock Exchange as well. At the time, no one was trading it. I didn't have a friend, family member, nobody. It was my idea. Like, I watched someone, I was getting some tips on Green Panther Limited. The only way to buy it was on the TSX. I said, man, I got to get onto the TSX. So I've been someone who's been kind of like, I've pushed myself to find ways. That's why when I find someone there's a coin and like, I don't know how to get the coin, I'm always like, I kind of roll my eyes because I'm like, man, you always, as a crypto lifer, we say, yes, we can always find that coin. We can always find that move. You know, there's got to be a way every time. You know, I never want to be denied. And Bookmap also helps that. So for me, it all started. So that's why I'm not as like prone to jump into like options and futures, because I made a good amount of money just being like, you know what, this is going to be big in 2 years from now. I'm going to put a good amount of money in it and see what can happen. And that's kind of how the crypto space is too. I mean, you speculate, right? So if you watch my channel a lot, you're probably going to see what I'm speculating on recently. Like most people know, I'm a Caspa guy, big on the coin KSPA. I don't know the team. I've never been paid to talk about it. I just want to, you know, disclose that. But I think it's a great project, and I think it could go places. So anyway, I dollar cost average long term, and that's like my story. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little story of like, where did this guy come from? You know, why does he do what he does? And there's reasonings why I trade the way I trade because of what happened to me on my way into trading, right? So not really much to kind of go over. We're just watching this, you know, again, I knew price action was going to be flat for this hour. I think we started at 29,247 or something, and we ended at 29,259, you know. I wanted to kind of make this a nice solid hour for everybody here. I would have loved if we had been able to watch the short squeeze, but if you have Bookmap, keep it open. Watch this 1 minute. I would chart this 1 minute, pen it here, and smile later today if you do see it go up. Man, Lifer, man, he did it again, you know, but we don't know. We'll never know. It's the probability says yes, and we'll go from there. So, yeah, I really appreciate everyone jumping in today. I thank you all for being Bookmap supporters. More people now than at the beginning, so that's awesome. Let me look at the chat. Some more questions would be awesome. I love Q&A. I love sharing my energy, my knowledge. Anything you got, please please feel free to ask, man. And know that I live stream every day, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. every single day of the week, okay? No days off all year long, baby. Right? And they're just picking off people that are 100x leveraged all over, right? And should I give you the last cool little trick? All right, I'll give you a little cool trick. I wasn't going to tell you guys this, but you know what? Because I love Bruce and I want to hook you guys. But I love Bookmap and the whole team. So here's a cool little tip, all right? This liquidation levels, latest ML applications, this is a free indicator, all right? Free indicator, best with use on like the 15-minute time frame. And what it does is you can show me who's basically around price action and wants to get liquidated. No, they don't want to, but they likely are going to, right? And it does it by color coding. So, like the bright yellow is the 100x short people. They're believing that it can go down, and they've got stop losses right here, and they're about to get picked off, right? If my flag breaks out, they're the ones that are going to pump my flag up, all right? Always use alerts. So, look, I didn't have to stare at that coin to see the alert hit, right? Always use alerts. Then we have the 100x longs right next there, and then we have the 50x, and then the 25x. These are the 25x, the 50x. Same thing on the other side here. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll just look and see if there's more liquidity either way. We do got a lot of long liquidity. We do have got a lot of short liquidity. It's kind of well balanced. And right now, they can eat right there. Right there, they can liquidate these people. So, and also I use the VRVP. And look at the point of control sticking out. Once you get above a point of control, you likely go to the next big node, right? So that's 29,800. So that kind of, starts kind of showing some signs. And again, remember that, and I used my moving averages. It's very likely we get this pump up to the 200 SMA when the moving averages get very tight. I've seen it happen like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I'm watching XRP on Bookmap too. Love you, brother. Yeah. Can you please explain the difference using EMAs and SMAs? Yeah, it's a great question. All right. An exponential moving average between a simple moving average. All right. And then I got to jump for the day. We'll just use the 21 simple. Say you use the 21 EMA. All right. Now, what is a moving average? It's you take 21 days and you divide it when the candles close, and you divide like the 21 day, you take the end of every day and you divide it by 21 days and it gives you a number. All right. That's the moving average. The exponential moving average will put more weight on days number 17, 18, 19, and 21 than it will on 1 through 5, or, you know. So they both are made up of 21 days. Like, say these are all 21 days, and that's the moving average, right? But an exponential moving average will put more weight on the days closer to your recent, to your present time, and less weight, you know. A simple moving average will just divide all 21 days and give you the average. It won't put more weight on the closer one. So by doing this, the EMA is supposed to be a little more leading and a little less latent. That's the idea. Now, if you're just good at trading, you could trade an EMA and find the signal with less latency, or you could front run a simple moving average, meaning you could see something about to happen and just start your trades before it happens. And that way you can almost make a latent indicator less latent, but that comes from your subconscious mind, having used that indicator so many times in your life. Right? So more heavenly weighted. Yeah, you're right. You're fine. But it puts more weight on the more present days, on the days that are closer to the present time. You know, yeah. So that's the end of it. I mean, I wish we could have saw a move. Bitcoin was very flat, right? Even now, though, we got this little kind of trend forming here, this little tighter channel. And I'm always open-minded. I'm always watching and looking. And I'm just edging out my probabilities. And remember, we got Fed Day tomorrow. So it just adds that, it adds a sense of suspense and hesitation to the market. I hope everyone really enjoyed this. I really did. The questions were awesome. I want to do this every week, so keep coming back. And I wanted to continue to do this. I wouldn't mind even making a live trade. You know, like if this got closer, I would have tried to open up that. I would have opened up that live trade on. Didn't get a chance to do it, but you never know. If it happens, we'll get the moves too as well. So, thank you for being here. Shout out to Bruce. Shout out to Josh. Shout out to the whole team, Beta, and everyone out there. I love the whole Bookmap team. I really appreciate that you guys have created the sponsors, the relationship I have with you guys, and thank you so much for being here with me, everyone. And, my second live stream of the day. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you're, just doing the best you can with your life and staying positive. Remember, work out. If you're getting into a rut, you're not feeling good, work out. I'm telling you, it's so important. And, thank you, everyone, for being here. And I'll see you on the next Bookmap. Link in the description below to Bookmap. All right. If you want Bookmap, I have links to my stuff too. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next Bookmap Live.